what I really love about this time of the year?
What's that?
Like, you know, when an organization is just in lockstep, right? Like AHL club, NHL club, just completely parallel on the same page, and it just feels wonderful.
Yeah,
Like,
experiencing that.
I love how Detroit and Grand Rapids have come together the last couple of weeks and just decided, like, we don't feel like the playoffs this year. And they're like in complete lockstep with each other. And if you just watch the product on the ice, man, nothing says I want to miss the playoffs more than playing hockey in this organization. It feels great. Like Carter Mazur just got called up yesterday, and I love that for him. Absolutely go off, King. I'm going to miss your debut tonight because I'm recording the pod. But you know what? He's going to be playing the same type of losing hockey in Detroit that was going on in Grand Rapids. So, you know, it should just be a seamless transition to go right on up there. That's how my March has been kicking off. How have you been?
Great, I guess.
Well, what is that? I guess. What does that even entail?
Well, your girl is currently unemployed.
Well, that's a vibe, you know, but
So I've been doing a lot of my like schoolwork, which is great. I'm having a great time. I'm finally in the like human anatomy portion of the learning how to teach other people how to exercise thing,
there you go.
which is tons of fun because human anatomy is like anatomy and physiology. It's just like science, and I love science. But yeah, no, just I'm filling out a lot of job applications, which is something I haven't had to do for 5 years. So
Well, we wish the best of luck to you. And for our audience, welcome. It's more another week of the AHL pre-show. I'm Drew.
and I'm D, and I keep forgetting about the fact that my iPad makes all of the cool reactions. So I keep doing things like this and getting fireworks and that.
And
And
Bubbles.
there's some like peace signs if you throw some peace signs, and then if you like hold the heart. Anyway, I keep doing things with my hands and making my screen do funny things, and I forget about it.
One would almost believe that you're Italian with just how much hand motions you got going on there. So I'll give you an honorary Italian position, but it's I'm sorry. I got to keep all the sauce and blood over on this side of the screen. We have a interesting. I mean, by the time this episode's released, there's only going to be a couple hours left until the trade deadline. But we're about a solid 18 hours ish from when that's all going down. Trades are already starting to hit at the NHL level, and I mean a lot of it's affecting us already here at the AHL. And yeah, we're just gonna kind of go off on some of that. One of the bigger ones I've seen that's affected us here in the American League was Winnipeg and Florida swapping out their goaltenders. So you're seeing Kaapo Kahkonen, who's probably gonna be heading over there down to Charlotte in place of Chris Driedger. And yeah, that was a big one. Some of the other ones
Yeah,
are yeah.
they're like
You look,
meh. Like yesterday, Pulley Yarby got signed and then immediately placed on waivers. Like 10 out of 10, go chaos.
right.
But yeah, I don't think a lot of we haven't seen any really like massive moves yet out of the national. It's looking like a lot of the moves are coming out of Florida, who are gearing up to defend their Stanley Cup title.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the moves so far have just been like depth NHL players. There have been a lot of like, I mean, there have been prospects that have gone like back and forth, what have you, but a lot of it's people on active NHL rosters that are getting swapped. So we still have a little bit of time, not much time, honestly. Florida's eaten all of it up until the actual trade deadline hits. And usually, day of is when we see a lot of the deals get finalized, when we see a lot of the chaos actually ensue. We might see some more moves that affect us here in the AHL. If that's the case, obviously, we will have to talk about them next week. But yeah, I'm excited. It looks like it's a seller's market, so truly anything could happen between now and what is it, like 3 p.m. Eastern tomorrow?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very much kind of got a bit of a calm before the storm kind of feel. Florida's already been like super active. Tampa's already been super active. Toronto's already been super dormant. And
yeah, Toronto put Ryan Reeves on waivers, which is fun. Could you imagine?
He's actually going to play for the Marlies this year.
Imagine if he does actually clear waivers by some act of God. He's gonna murder the North.
Yeah, those poor kids that are just trying to make a name for themselves in Laval and Rochester are just gonna get run over by Ryan Reeves.
Like legitimately just like pummeled into the ground, and it's like, keep your head up, kid. And it's like, this is the AHL.
I mean, I totally trust Revo to go down there and actually like play some good hockey for the Marlies to try and earn his way back up to the Maple Leafs. But it's like it was kind of, you know, jarring to see his name on that waiver list. And you assume that there's a lot of different names that ended up there. Christian Fisher was one of those. He got claimed by Columbus. But as teams are starting to make their moves, you also have to remember that for players to be eligible for the playoff push in the AHL, they have to be on AHL rosters by the deadline. So there's so if Revo does clear, it's not, I mean, he could be eligible to make a run with the Marlies for a Calder Cup, which, I mean, like, vibes would be great.
Might be the only Toronto championship he ever sees. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud?
Heyo.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's been a weird little like cap management game for the NHL, and I feel like this is like it's an anomaly year where we do see a bunch of people who it's like, what are you doing? They're definitely not going to clear waivers. In order to clear up some space by noon tomorrow to be able to finalize trades by 3 p.m. tomorrow. So that's always fun and interesting.
Yeah. And yeah, we're basically just going to keep one eye open on the big clubs and see what ends up. And it's like, it's the most anxiety inducing time of the year. At least for me it is. Because like last year, you know, Jonathan Berggren was very much on all kinds of trade rumors and discussions down there in Grand Rapids, you know. And I remember going on the Twitter like 30 minutes before the trade deadline. And it said like trending like tweets and like what was trending there. And there was Berggren, and then underneath it was Yzerman. And I was just like, don't do this.
You're like, not right now, Steven.
Right. Like, give me a break.
Yeah, you gotta keep your eyes on your emotional support like plugs. You know, your emotional support fourth liners. Like, you gotta make sure they survive the trade deadline on at least on a team that you can stomach watching. You know, because your emotional support hockey players remain your emotional support hockey players. It doesn't matter where they play. Just like, you're telling me now I gotta watch Toronto games?
Right. Like,
Don't do that to me.
Like if Bergie gets traded to like Utah, right? Nothing
Right.
against a hockey club, but now I got to start staying up for like West Coast games because like that's my emotional support Swede. That was my like one of my first podcast guests, one of the biggest beauties I've ever had the fortune of covering. And now
Right, like it's your guy.
yeah, exactly.
You gotta make sure you can live with how you plan your schedule around your emotional support hockey players.
Yeah, and right, it's not your stars, it's not your studs that are unless you're a Carolina fan that are on the verge of being to another team. It's right, it's those guys that like you really connect with, right? Like
Right, because like at some point you get accustomed to the idea that like your stars, like a superstar player, whatever, is probably gonna get traded. There's so few players who just like are lifers for a team anymore that like you're like, all right, unless they are a $10.5 million goalie with a full no move clause, Carey Price, they're probably staying like on the trade market. They're just staying available.
right.
You get used to that idea. It's like, even just because he hasn't been traded, Patrice Bergeron at any point could have left the Boston Bruins, and you kind of like that could happen.
Yeah, they were talking about Boston was listening to offers for Marchand, so like anyone can be traded, and so
Yeah, nobody's safe. But it's like those players that like you think you convince yourself only have value to your team, Arturi Lehkonen, that get traded and it breaks your heart unless they get traded to your other favorite team, Arturi Lehkonen.
and then they win the cup with the other favorite team.
And I said it immediately.
And they cut it away to someone.
And I cry. Listen, I said it immediately. Arturi Lehkonen got traded to Colorado, right? Everybody's like, gee, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, for what? He's on my other favorite team, and he's about to go win the Stanley Cup. And then what did he do? Scores a game-winning goal of the Stanley Cup. Go off, King. Hashtag good stick lucky.
And for those of you familiar, there's a very important app involved with that. It is the whole app of our beloved coach over here.
I am at Good Stick Lucky.
That's right.
On X, formerly known as Twitter, and Blue Sky Social.
Let's be real. It's still Twitter. I don't care what what the people say. It's still Twitter. Anyway, all that's just to say that like my anxiety is through the roof. Tomorrow it's going to be even worse. I'm probably going to need to talk to a therapist because I'm already imagining like guys from Chicago getting dealt, guys from Grand Rapids getting dealt. And the thing is, neither their parent clubs are really in a position to like sell parts off for young players that are going to come in and help. So there's no reinforcements coming in the way for either of these teams. It's just like bad vibes one way and the other. So my anxiety is really high.
This is the first year where I can kind of go into the trade deadline like chill. They're like the Rocket are in a good place. They don't really need to add anything to the Rocket. The Canadians just re-signed Jake Evans, which is incredible. And whether or not they add anything at the trade deadline, which I don't think they will, but if they do, if they surprise me and add something, it's like they've already got such a good foundation. They just need to let a couple UFAs walk. Not David Savard, but they need to let a couple UFAs walk. move some people down to the third defensive pairing. I don't care how good he was in Pittsburgh. He's not being utilized correctly here, and it's showing. Matheson. And they're good. Like they have like the kids are growing up. They're getting game time experience. They're getting real world experience. And yeah. I do think this is like the first trade deadline that like my teams are both going into it, and I'm like, this is probably fine. Like I probably don't have to stress out too much, you know?
And like at the end of the day, you really like I'm happy for you that you're entering a realm of pretty laid backness, and like you can just kind of vibe to what's going on. I can't. I really
Yeah.
it's bad enough. I already lost Carter Mazur, and judging by him being called up at this time, I guess Detroit could send him down tomorrow
Okay,
for
but they have a really cute Twitter post.
I know. And did you
Okay,
see like
it's all like drawing. It's like when I grow up, I want to be playing professional hockey for the Detroit Red Wings and give money to the poor and hospitals. And I was like, oh.
so for those of you who don't know, Carter Mazur was born and grew up in Jackson, Michigan, about an hour and a half outside of Detroit. Grew up a huge Wings fan. He wears 43 in honor of Darren Helm. There's another Colorado Avalanche Stanley Cup champion there for you. And he grew up idolizing this team. He has a very famous shot of him. I mean, he must have been no more than 6 or 7 years old, coloring himself in as a member of the Red Wings and saying he was going to play for the Wings growing up. And really, in about 3 minutes, his dream comes true. He makes his NHL debut for the Red Wings. And
Yeah, and the Wings tweeted out the little children's drawing and their cap and a picture of his very first regular season Detroit Red Wings jersey with his name on it, hanging in his locker stall, and they captioned it "Dreams do come true."
so yeah, we encourage you guys to check that out. It's very heartwarming, and I mean, Carter's a great kid. He's always been a wonderful interview, and I've actually had the fortune to run into his dad at a Red Wing game, and you know, even though his dad encouraged me that I need to give him the business during the post game scrums and everything. Again, great guy, great family. They were all so excited that really I think his dad was the one to break the news about him being called up. So before the teams announced it, before Grand Rapids announced it, his family was already reaching out to local radio stations to be like, hey, Carter's going up to the Wings. And it's a great story to see. You know, I mean, they're all over the league, these guys kind of living out their dreams and all that.
It's so cute. I can't. My heart melts whenever it's like hometown kid gets to make their debut for their favorite team growing up.
Yeah. It's great. It's like I wish it was me growing up with the wing wheel on, but I gave up that dream about 20 years ago. So
yeah, it's like one of the things where it's like I understand that expanding into like every major sports market in the United States and Canada is gonna make the season unbearably long.
Yeah.
But also like we should totally just expand into every major sports market in the United States and Canada and make the season unbearably long so we can get more hometown kids playing for their hometown team. Like, come on.
I like that. I like the plan.
The pros outweighs the con.
We're just gonna make dreams come true all over the continent, you know? Be great. So I'm like, I don't have to worry about Carter being traded. Thankfully,
you better find someone and you better knock right on it.
Yeah, no, if anything happens tomorrow regarding him, you're running the show the rest of the season. I can't do it. You maybe get Zach on to replace me or something. I don't know, but anyway, but yeah, it's still like it's giving major anxiety. I'm wondering who gets sent down tomorrow ahead of the deadline, so that way, I can kind of have an idea of what Grand Rapids is really working with if they manage to somehow stumble into the playoffs by accident.
Yeah.
God, it's bad. The vibes are bad, man. Did you see like this past weekend they had to struggle against Manitoba. Manitoba is like the Bridgeport of Central, and they struggled against them. They won the second game in the shootout. The first game they just got blown out in. Like, it's bad. Like, between Grand Rapids, the Red Wings, and Team USA, do you realize how low my vibes are for hockey right now?
I mean, it probably sucks, but I'm watching you struggle as a Habs fan whose team is performing way above expectations this year. So it's a season where it's like, okay, I could focus on every like super negative thing, or I can realize that this is like the best team that they've put together, like actually the best team, not just like lucked their way into the Stanley Cup final in like 10 years. like I so you're struggling, but I'm over here like the Rocket are the best and the Habs suck less, you know?
I don't really care that anything good happened to you. It should have happened to me. And that's my vibe at this point. I'm trying not to be a Debbie Downer,
Well,
especially
you're still ahead of the Habs. They're still ahead of the Habs in the standings, so
don't care. We were the first wild card, and now we're just in free fall.
well, good thing you have wings.
It doesn't matter if you can't, if you're just dropping. No, don't give me the finger guns. No, it's not. Stop. No.
Wings, baby!
That's not helping. That's not helping.
Not my fault you can't fly with them.
Oh, anyway, so if you do need something for Laval to make a deep run in this playoff, though, what's like your trade deadline wish list? You can't say Arturi Lehkonen.
I would never put him in the AHL. He'd never clear the waivers. I don't know, man, because like the Rocket are getting players back. Like they're getting healthy. Reinbacker is back and brutal. Maybe give us Owen Beck back, please. Like truly, I don't know. I'm always gonna say like defense. I'm always gonna say like make sure that you are okay with your defense. Make sure that you can trust your defense going into the playoffs because you need them. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe another goalie, but like I wouldn't want to sell anything in order to get something that's just gonna like maybe help the team.
Right.
Really, it's not even like the Rocket don't really need pieces traded for. It's just if they could pretty please get Dobesh back, and if they could pretty please get Owen Beck back, that would be great. It's not going to happen, probably. They probably will end up assigning Beck to the Rocket, just to have him eligible to play on the roster. So I do see that happening, because obviously the Rocket are basically just playing for seeding right now, whereas the Habs are like maybe they will, maybe they won't make it into a wild card spot. So So I think the smart thing to do is assign Beck to the Rocket, and then you could still call him up. Like he can still go back and forth between the two. You just need to make sure that on paper he is eligible to play the Calder Cup playoffs.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I like your plan there. I mean, you don't need to rock the boat too much with the team that's second in the division right now and is
in the league.
In the whole league. Okay. Well, the
Mm-hmm.
league is just outside the North Division, so it's okay. But
Second in the league.
I just want like one thing for Grand Rapids, which I know sounds crazy because they're just as much of a free fall as Detroit. But you need a power play quarterback. I don't care if like who gets traded up top. Like send a 5th round pick or whatever and get a power play quarterback for this team, please. For the love of God. I am so sick of watching this power play and their terrible entries and their inability to do anything at the blue line. It's just maddening. And I'm sorry. I like what they're doing with William Wallinder and Shai Buium. They're not it yet. So get a guy, please. Steve, Sean, anyone, someone, Bueller, anyone. I don't think Carolina is going to do anything that's going to help Chicago out. I think if anything, they're going to do something that's going to hurt Chicago very bad.
They're going to actually trade Mikko Rantanen and also have to package a whole bunch of AHLers in order to have somebody take his contract that he's definitely going to walk out of at the end of the season. Yeah.
If they trade Mikko, there might be some like exciting thing coming. I saw somewhere where a purported trade proposal, I guess, on the interwebs that saw him going to Dallas and having like Maverick Bork and Justin Recipian coming back, and I was like, dude, that would be cool. That would be cool. Just kind of like rip the heart out of your division rival and give it to Chicago. Like that would I wouldn't mind that. I have no emotional connection to Mikko Rantanen in Carolina, so yeah, absolutely do it.
I mean, for sure. It's one of those things though where you have to think like you're gonna have to leverage a whole lot for Rantanen because I just traded for him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you're gonna have to leverage a ton for him, only for him to have like a higher chance of walking out than signing with you at the end of the season because he wants to hit the open market, and then more moves are going to be made, contracts are going to be shed, UFAs are going to walk away, RFAs are going to be like qualified or not qualified and then released. So like you have more money to sign somebody in July than you do right now.
Right.
So like I don't know, like if you're smart, you kind of get rid of him and get like whatever you can while he doesn't cost $8 million a year. But it's also something that other teams are taking into consideration is that he wants $8 million a year. So you've gotta, and you're gonna lose that. So are you willing to lose other assets to be able to afford this one guy, like this one rental that may or may not fit in with your team, considering his entire career he's played with the same handful of players. And even when they shook up that line, it was somebody he was on the same line with in Finnish juniors in Arturi Lehkonen that he's known his whole life, that he trains with in the summer, that he is best friends with outside of hockey. You gotta, like, do you really want that? If you really want to get rid of that, having traded Natchez.
I really hope that he doesn't get traded before like 1:00 tomorrow. Otherwise, this is all just going to be a moot point.
It's funny. I guess he gets traded. You know what? Go off, King. You're like he's right. Not like I don't see it unless it's like somebody who's like at the cap floor, basically. Like, unless he goes to Columbus, I don't think they have the money to re-sign him currently. You know what I mean? So he's like a rental everywhere else.
He's if he does get traded, he's absolutely going to be a mercenary for a team that's gunning for a cup, and then he's going to go get his.
He's going to Florida. You heard it here first, folks. Mika Rantanen is getting traded to Florida, who is like the only person doing any trades, except for the New York Rangers, who are making trades that make no sense.
The Panthers did just put Tkachuk on IR, and they can go the whole Vegas route. So
they totally could do.
I think it's time that we open up this. Finally, it's here. The playoff primer.
I love the playoff primer.
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to share the screen for this one because it's a bunch of fun, and we can go and take a look.
It's my favorite thing. You get a playoff primer every week, and I get the notification from the AHL app that says your playoff primer is ready, and I'm like, yes, it is.
I was so hyped for the primer to drop this week. I was like, because I feel like we've been talking about it for like weeks. We're like, well, it's gonna be coming any day now, and finally,
30 seconds now. We're gonna get the primer.
It hit like the first year on a Friday after a long week. Oh, baby, I love the sight of this. So many numbers. What's the first number to jump out at you?
The Laval Rocket in second place in the North and second place in the league.
There you go. The number that jumped out at me is that the Bridgeport Islanders have a minus 78 goal differential.
Yeah. There's that.
They're like they can't. They have to. Okay, I'm taking a look. Their magic number.
I can't even think. He's like.
Their magic number to make the playoffs is 66.
That's totally doable. Totally doable.
That's not so hard because they only have 30 points. Oh, I love it. So let me see.
Yeah.
They can only their max points is 64. So realistically, I say this realistically, talking about the Bridgeport Islanders, if they won every single game, the highest they could get would be 5th place, and that's assuming that Lehigh Valley doesn't score another point.
True fact.
That would be wild.
Yeah, but like, listen. Once again, we have like the top spot in the North being stupidly close.
Yeah.
You know, like to win the division, it's 23 points and 24 points because, of course, you know they play different like games and stuff. You know.
Yeah.
The Rocket have one more game in hand for the Americans. They've got like not the worst schedule going into it. They're playing each other. So like it's that's gonna be good. That's gonna be incredible hockey. I'm super here for it. That's gonna determine 4 out of that like 24 total points to win. Yes, thank you. The division there.
I wanted to help us out here.
I know it's like once again the North is like because like sure like the monsters are like it's a pretty big gap to catch up to 1 and 2 from 3 and 4, but 3 and 4 are right next to each other again.
Right. It's I feel like in all my years of covering this league that the North has always been the division of chaos.
It's down to the last second every single year because, okay, you think you know which 5 teams are making the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Right.
You think you know. But 5 and 6 are like 2 points away from each other.
Yeah, Syracuse is still hanging around in there, and honestly, like the thing for me, like the mark of how good a team is has always been like not necessarily looking at points or anything like that, but like the goal differential, right? So
and how they stay in there.
Look at the North. 3rd place Cleveland has a goal differential of -6. Meanwhile, Toronto's a point behind, but they have a plus 11 differential. Then you got another negative in Belleville. Finally, you got Syracuse at plus 7, and then Utica, well, they started off the season 0-13, so
Utica's just so happy to be included.
they're if you take away those 13 opening losses, they're not that far behind.
That's what I'm saying. The North kills me. Look right underneath it at the Central, right? 67 to 42, right?
Right.
Between 1 and 7 in the Central, 67 points to 42 points. All right, that's a gap. You know that if you are Iowa and Manitoba, you're probably not making the playoffs. Bar some catastrophic miracle, you are not making the playoffs, right?
Right.
You scroll up for me, show me those Atlantic numbers, because those are also always bonkers.
Okay, well,
ignoring Bridgeport, right? 71 is the top 53.
Yeah.
Is the bottom number there, right? Freaking the North, not a chance, okay? Between your contenders right now, 74 and 73. That's big. That's big, right? That's a really high number of points. But then between everybody else, there's a total of 11 points? Difference?
Right.
Hello? That's crazy.
I'm taking a look at just all over. You know me. I love my Pacific Division hockey too, because it's it feels like they're constantly locker boxing with each other, right? I know they play out of division, but when you have 10 teams, basically just locker boxing into each other. And
right. Which again, if you take one team, 2 teams from the Pacific, give 1 to the Central and 1 to North, we would have an even number of teams per division, and then we could just play an even number of games across every single team.
I'll take Colorado in the Central. I've been campaigning.
You could just play however many, and you make sure you play each team at least once in each arena, like the NHL does it. Why is it got to be so complicated? AHL, figure it out. Sorry, that's my mini rant for right now.
It's okay. I went on a big rant last week, so we can take a mini rant this week. If I was a Manitoba fan, I'd cry. I'd be very grateful that Bridgeport exists.
If I was a Manitoba fan,
they should.
I'd have to live in.
But
I mean, they already have to live in Winnipeg, so
they didn't choose that though. That's mean.
I mean, once you turn 18, you're totally free to leave.
What 18-year-old's got enough money to leave Winnipeg?
The ones that join an armed force of some sort.
That seems very 1984-ish. Join the army or live in the cold wasteland that you were born in.
That's what I did. 18, joined the army. El Paso for me.
But you didn't live in Winnipeg, did you?
No. But that's my point. If I lived in Winnipeg, I probably would have stayed in the army, you know?
I find it kind of hilarious now looking at it. Rockford, 50 points, firmly in that number 5 spot in the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right above them out of the North, Utica, 50 points, and
it's mathematically out. It's mathematically eliminated from the playoffs.
Not mathematically, but spiritually eliminated.
You know what I mean? Okay, but I don't see the absolute crumble of these teams that are performing well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Utica opened the season again, not winning 13 straight games. And
that's a personal problem, man. That's what they get for wanting to play the Rocket so early in the season.
Well, the point being is that they've still managed to climb up to 50 points. Rockford has just not been good. There's a
Right.
difference.
Listen, it's like, what am I trying to say? I don't want to call it like a talent gap,
I
right?
do.
Because
Talent
okay,
gap.
but they all play better hockey than you do. That's why they're there, and you're playing beer league at 11:30 on a Wednesday night, Andrew.
I don't play beer league anymore. My skates are
Anyway, it's a performance gap, I guess, is like an easier way to say it. Like some teams are like, yeah, obviously, like teams are going to outperform whatever. And the thing is that in the AHL, I think that's where we see the most actual, genuine, real life parity. Is it's just a performance gap,
yeah.
you know? And it's like it's crazy, like it's absolutely bonkers. Pretending that Bridgeport doesn't exist because it's skewing the data. Like Hartford is at 53, right?
Right.
53 points, which is more than Rockford, and are out of the playoffs.
Correct.
You know what I
And
mean?
then,
Like it's crazy.
yeah, then you have
Bonkers.
Bakersfield and San Diego with 55 and 50 respectively, also out of the playoffs in the Pacific.
Right.
I've tried to hide my disdain for Central Division hockey because I cover it and I'm trying to like play it up more, but I really do think that this is like the weakest division of the four. How is Rockford a playoff team? How did you guys let this happen?
Well, they have I guess they have the All-Star game. So
Oh, don't remind me of that.
conspiracy theory time. Put my tinfoil hat on. Rockford gets to make the
Rockford?
Rockford gets to make the playoffs as a treat for agreeing to host a midweek All-Star game.
It's on a Wednesday. It's Rockford. You got to take PTO off to go to Rockford. I don't know if I can, man. That's tough.
Like imagine you was like, I'm going to the All-Star game. You gotta actually put that in on your PTO request. It's like,
Right.
why do you need PTO right now? Well, I'm going to cover the AHL All-Star game in Rockford, Illinois. Let's go.
Also deny it. Be like, you got to go somewhere here. I require it of you. Let's take a look because I think this weekend, according to the primer, Friday and Saturday in Laval, we got the top two teams in the AHL going at it. Heavyweight showdown. Rochester at the Rocket, not Rocket Arena, that's in Cleveland, but at Place Bell.
Place Bell, which when I went to Montreal, I actually stayed like right down the street from Place Bell.
It's a vibe.
Kind of,
You went to a Rocket game, didn't you?
no, it was a Habs game. It was my first NHL game. Yeah. I gotta
Messed up.
talk about it
I mean, not
somewhere over
really.
here. No,
Anyway.
so there was no time in like what I had originally planned, but because it snowed heavy here, it canceled my flight a day. I extended my fly out day from the 31st of January to the 2nd of February. So there was finally a time that I would be able to go to a game, but I couldn't buy two tickets. I could only buy single tickets, and buying two single tickets put us really far apart. And it was like completely sold out for double tickets. Suites were sold out. Like everything was sold out. I was like, I'll pay you $1,000 Canadian right now. I'll pay you $1,000 American right now to set me up a folding chair in the tunnel, and I will give everybody high fives as they walk by.
Was that a legitimate threat? $1,000 American? That's a lot of cheddar. At any rate, we I don't know what more to say about it other than like, two best teams in the AHL. You got Caden Primo in one net, Devin Levi in the other. You got a couple of big time goaltenders. I mean, Levi's really been coming on strong all season and is kind of leaning towards possibly making a run at goaltender of the year, and it would support my vote because unfortunately Sebastian Cossa kind of fell off a cliff.
Well, but Primo has come back down from the NHL. Now they have Delbesh riding the bench and not doing anything. Yeah, Montembeau is starting basically every game, which is great. Yeah, fine, totally, whatever. But like, maybe just trade for an actual goalie or something. I don't know. Let the kid play. Let Delbesh actually play some hockey instead of just like letting him sit there. But you got a higher quality goaltending coach in the NHL. Usually they have more resources. So great, cool. But Primo has come back down to the AHL. He's confident again. He looks like the guy that they assessed as ready for the NHL. He's absolutely crushing it. Low scoring games against the Rocket lately, which is why that goal differential has shot way up in recent times.
Yep, the Rocket are currently on a 3-game winning streak. Rochester's on a 4-0-2 streak, so something's got to give, but it's going to be fireworks. Obviously, I think that's pretty blatantly going to be our big marquee matchup of this weekend. But we can take a look and see like what else we got going on. I wonder if Wilkes-Barre's going to be losing to Hershey again.
That would be fun.
Well, Hershey's going to be in Cleveland. That
okay.
Sorry,
that's what the at. Yeah, the at means that they're going to be there.
I was reading it wrong. I read it right the first time.
Yeah, they're going to be in Cleveland. Yeah. Cleveland's nothing to like turn your nose up at right now. Cleveland is kind of rolling.
Yeah, don't let that negative goal differential confuse you like it confused me, because this is still a squad that was this is a rematch of last year's Eastern Conference Finals, and they were a goal away, an overtime Game 7 away from taking the Bears spot in the Calder Cup Finals. So maybe that'll play into some of those guys, maybe like Trey Fix-Wolansky, who were there last year. Bitter taste in his mouth, want to go and get some payback against the Bears? Maybe. We'll see.
Hockey memories are long, man. They are long. Those grudges follow you. Yeah. It doesn't much matter. I mean, Cleveland has their feet back underneath them. They are, like I said, rolling. They're building confidence. They are absolutely just like riding that momentum. And yeah, sure, they've got a -6 goal differential, but like, remember what it was? Because like, that's great, actually. I mean, if you're above like a -74, you should be pretty fine.
So I'm taking a look at this, and this will my last note about Bridgeport. Their max points that they can get is 64. And Springfield's in that last playoff position with 62. So Springfield wins a game this week, the second week of the playoff primer. Bridgeport would be completely eliminated from all playoff contention. So, like I said, spiritually, mathematically on life support, but probably not going to be resuscitated, letting the family members know that this season is dead. And okay, so at best case scenario for them is that they probably survive until Sunday when they play Springfield, and it's gone. I mean, they'll probably lose to Toronto too. So I asked myself this when I was looking up the statistics of the actual worst team in the AHL history.
Which we have a special coming about at some point.
That's honestly gonna deserve its own like 3-part series. There's a lot. We have a lot to talk about.
Got a lot to unpack there.
Like, what do you do if you're on Bridgeport? I think we've kind of talked about it before, but like, okay, Toronto's coming to town where you've won 3 games all year. on Saturday, like no one's gonna be in the stands. There's nothing to play for. What do? You got to show up and go to work, right? But like, is it like me where you're playing for that paycheck and you just hate your job? Like, how does that? What's the fine?
I don't know. You gotta assume that they're like so frustrated. You know, I don't know. I think you just play. I think you play until you find something that goes right. And there's not a lot that has gone right for Bridgeport, and it is not for a lack of trying this season. There's just not much has gone right for them. You know?
Yeah, I have a feeling it's about to become a lack of trying in a minute.
Yeah, sure. But I think they still go out there and they still play and they're still skating hard and they're still really trying. I think you just continue to play, you ride out the season, and then you get everybody together for some golf as basically your last game of the year if you're not playing any more hockey. I think you give everybody some time to go be just pissed. And then you get everybody together and, I don't know, hold up a mirror in front of yourself and you look at yourself and you say, never again.
Do you think they just host like a team coming together event where it's like, I forget what it's like those rooms where they basically just give you a baseball bat and a bunch of stuff to break, and they're just like, here you go.
Yeah, like it's a rage room.
Yeah. Do you think
they need a rage room?
They just set that up for like 23 guys or however many there are on that roster, and it's just like, just get it out. Just get it out right now.
I think what you need to allow them to do is I think you need to allow them to destroy the locker room. I think you need to allow them. No, listen, like just trash the locker room. You need to let them get out onto the ice and like throw the nets and break the glass and dent the boards and take pickaxes and actually chip up the ice. Now, you need to let them take out their anger on like the physical place, I think, and then let them have that catharsis. Like, this place, I spent the worst season of my life in this place. Let them take it out on the actual place, and then kind of go from there, and then do some kumbaya meditation exercises or something.
Oh, sorry, something just came through the wire, and I'm very like, you know how I was talking about just bad vibes in hockey, like it just continues to get worse for me.
Yeah, what could possibly have happened?
We'll talk about it after the show's done. Yeah. So sorry, I'm just continuing to look over at the primer here. I know Chicago's got a huge week coming up. Not just beat by us or anything, but they're in Milwaukee, second team in the division. Then they host Grand Rapids, who they're chasing directly in the standings, and then they have Texas right after that, who's first in the division. It's a tough stretch. Out of anyone in the Central, they do have the toughest schedule remaining. I believe not this weekend, but later on in the season, they do have Hershey coming into town, so that's going to prop up your strength of schedule numbers a little bit, and it's going to provide a really tough challenge for this team. But this is gut check time. They got a young squad there in Chicago. You're being led in scoring by, the alleged Ryan Suzuki, but
who may or may not exist. We don't know.
Bradley Nadeau on your blue line by Scott Morrow, a couple of first-year players, and they've been having great seasons as rookies here, and now this is the time where, like, you're not being forced to grow up super quick or anything, but like these are the crunch time games, right? It's kind of like, let's see what you're made of. Not that it's really going to make or break your career, but strong showings here is going to go a long way to kind of assessing like where you're going to end up at maybe next year.
Yeah, reputation's also like super important. If you start off on like a reputation of, well, maybe they give up a little bit, and it's like, okay, well, like can't really train a work ethic into you. I can't really develop a work ethic into you.
Especially if one Mr. Rantanen isn't in the lineup next year and there's an open forward spot, Bradley Nadeau, where Carolina might need another scorer to come up and make a roster spot.
Yeah,
Hint,
exactly.
wink, wink, all of that. Please don't trade him. And then let's see what's going on in the Pacific. Well, it looks like Colorado or Coachella is not playing until Wednesday. Which is against Colorado. Should be a great matchup, which is still technically in the realm of our like next week look ahead, but it's very far out. At any rate, I've really, really liked the Eagles, and I've kind of adopted them as like my Pacific team to root for here, even though I've kind of flip flop between like Calgary and Ontario, and now I'm on Colorado. But you know what? After
Welcome to the party.
Colorado kind of stole the soul from the Griffins. They have never been the same since that series against them. So I'm here for it. They can take my soul too. I know I'm a ginger, but as far as I know, I do have one of those for the time being.
Yeah. Welcome to the party, though.
The Colorado party or the having a soul party?
The Colorado.
Okay. Yeah. They're a fun team. They're easy to root for. Adam Scheel just got an NHL contract. Former Wolf. Congratulations to him.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. He'd been battling through as being the third goaltender of an AHL team for a while. Made a name for himself in Chicago, where he kind of stole the job because Keith Kincaid was too busy interacting with trolls on Twitter. And
name searching. Yep.
And then name searching for sure. And then got the job and with the Eagles and earned himself into a contract. So congratulations to him.
We're so proud of him.
Yeah, I'm trying to see I'm kind of a bit on the Tucson wagon though, because I don't know if anyone saw.
I just
Yeah,
go for the goal in the fight. That makes sense.
I didn't even recognize that it was an AHL game until I saw Nikita Toliopo's name and as for Abbotsford and that, because that Tucson community center where the rink is and all that, it felt like a high school game, and
it was something.
And then I noticed the Kachina jersey, and I forget the name, unfortunately, of the guy who scored. I'll go take a look at it. But overtime winner for Tucson over Abbotsford, and there was no celebration. Or, I mean, I guess you could say there was a celebration, but instead of actually putting his arms up and being like, yeah, team, we won, let's go, boys, he turns around and just goes right at the defenseman and just throws
clobbers the guy.
It was so good.
He didn't raise his arms up. He did put his fists in the air, though.
Right. Hang on, it's loading. I'm trying to find the name of this guy because I want to shake his hand. I can't.
I know, it's wild. What goes through your brain when you're like, yes, scored a goal, ka-chow.
Andrew Agozzino.
No, that actually makes a lot of sense.
This guy's been in the league since 2010. That is awesome.
Yeah, it actually saying it's Agozzino actually makes the most amount of sense. I'm not gonna lie.
I love it. He was born in 91. His name is Andrew, and he's Italian. Of course, I love it. I'm sorry, Colorado. I might have just picked up another team in Tucson. Division team. It's just
depends on if they stay there, though.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun 2 or 3 games in their playoff run because they're going to play Colorado and they're just going to get smoked. But you know what? I'm here for it. They got Baker. They're in Bakersfield this weekend. Bakersfield is right up on their bum for that 7th spot and last playoff spot in the Pacific. So tune in for
There's too
that.
many teams.
Hopefully,
Too many teams in the Pacific.
there's more like post-game shenanigans. Like, I love chaos in this league. It's so unhinged at the best times.
It's wild.
Great.
I love the playoff race in the AHL is like infinitely more fun than the playoff race in the NHL. There's like 3 things that you can count on is that Hershey Bears are definitely in the playoffs. The Lehigh Valley Phantoms are going to choke. And you're never going to know who's made the playoffs in every other division until the day that they start.
I love it. I love it. But that is the end of our show. It's going to be a lot like this down the stretch where it's going to be a lot of chaos opening up. Maybe you'll get some lore on the worst AHL team ever to exist. I'm working on a bit of a project here. Is very, very detailed. I'll say that much. There's a lot to talk about, and it's going to be great. I hope you guys enjoy it, and we're gonna have some playoff race coverage along the way. So make sure to tune in next week and the next week and the next week and the next week because we're gonna be bringing it all to you. I'm Drew.
I'm Dee.
And this has been another
confetti.
Woo!